In this episode, we're looking at Venus-Neptune conjunction in Aries, lighting up themes of idealism in love, creative fire, and confronting illusions head-on. The full moon in Scorpio brings deep emotional truth to the surface, exposing what's been buried and demanding transformation. Meanwhile, the Sun conjunct Uranus in Taurus shocks the system and pushes us to break free from comfort zones and stagnant patterns. Saturn moves into Aries, marking the beginning of a whole new karmic cycle, challenging us to bring structure to our fire and discipline to our desires. And as Mercury shifts into Gemini, the mental energy speeds up, which is great for insight, but also very easy to get scattered if you're not grounded. This month is a cosmic turning point. So without further ado, let's dive into it. All right, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to another Astrology Weather Report with Rodney Goodwin. My name is Logan Hart, and this is the Wizard Factory, which is all about giving you the spiritual tools and mindsets to bring more freedom and purpose into your life. So if that sounds good, please like the video and consider subscribing to join the tribe. In this episode, Rodney and I are going to break down the astrology for the month of May, and this is a very powerful one. So join once again with us, Rodney Goodwin. Welcome, brother.
How you doing, bro?
I'm doing better than I was. It's been a pretty bumpy few months, but staying the course and surfing the waves, man.
It's been bumpy, but we knew we were in for a bumpy ride when we signed up for this shit. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
I did a little video today. I was talking about something that was really interesting. It's kind of getting into the transits that we're going to talk about today. And that is the idea of doing the shadow work, right? And things coming up that are, to your waking consciousness from the subrealms. And I hear a lot of this, especially, the patterning. And that is, man, the shadow work's kicking my ass. It's been so hard. It's been so difficult. Man, I don't know. I don't know if I can even take anymore. I hear this theme going on, right?
Right.
And I started thinking about it, and I was like, wait a second, man. If I'm thinking that and speaking that, right? Every cell in my body's hearing that. What's that actually doing to my mindset and my navigation point to the actual transformative aspect that I'm trying to accomplish of making a better version of myself? That's actually holding us back by speaking that, oh, it's so hard, it's so difficult, I'm so tired, I'm exhausted. Those type of energies, those type of words that we're speaking out, from our own consciousness, our own mindset that we've been trapped in, to the patterning of that. Because I see that a lot over the last year or two, that's been a pattern of speaking with people who are actually doing this work. Have you noticed that?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. And it's something that I wanted to address because we have to change the mindset, because the mindset is the navigation point in context to what you're forging.
Mm-hmm.
It's the law of mentalism, right? So our state of mind is everything.
That's going to color your experience in every way.
Right. So what we're creating with our state of mind in context to thought, Gemini, right? The thought patterns, Mercury, which we got Mercury coming in to Gemini, right?
Is Gemini the internal aspect of
it? Is it's an internal dialogue to your thought process, right? Yeah. So this is why Gemini can be very monkey brained, because it's very bipolar in context to the twins, see? And so when you're driving the narrative, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, it's so hard, it's so difficult, I don't know if, I'm trying to get by, I'm trying to make, all of these words of kind of bordering a very negative type of attitude towards shadow work. Mm-hmm. You got to flip the magnet and say, you know what? I'm forging this, man. I'm a powerful being. I'm a powerful human being. I'm going to get this. I'm going to drive the narrative. And if I need to pull back because I need to rest, then I'll pull back and I'll rest, and then I'll get right back on it. You can pull back on this work. You don't have to just be on it 24/7. You could pull back and rest your body, allow your body to recuperate, kind of recalibrate things, and then jump right back into it. You are the master of your thoughts and how fast or how slow you want to go with this alchemical process.
Yeah, I love that. And it's very synchronistic because as you can see, I'm at the house right now.
Yeah.
As I just said, it's been a very challenging few months, and I just decided it was time to take some downtime, to cool off, to recharge, to unplug, to get out of the damn truck for a little while.
Exactly.
And there is nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's so necessary to honor yourself. And allowing myself to feel stuff come up, that feeling those emotions, and just not resisting them, not feeding them, just letting them be there. And when you do that, they're much more fluid. They come up, and then you move through it, and then it's gone. If you obsess about it, if you get caught up, or if you try to resist it, it stays stuck there. So it's like the allowance, the surrender almost is the key to letting it flow and not being ruled by that. But yeah,
That makes total sense in context to where Mercury's been in Taurus, because it's really been communicating with our self-worth, self-love, self-validation, being able to actually take some time to step into some comfort level of a few things that we need to, we need to have some comfort things in our life, things that we enjoy, things that we love to do. And not everything has to be just shadow work, hardcore.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Just having some compassion for yourself too.
Exactly.
It's like having the awareness of where I am and what my journey's been like allows me to have that clarity. So when these emotions are coming up, I can meet myself there and just be like, yeah, man, I get it. Like you've been through some shit and that's okay. Like you're going to feel that. And now is the time to process it and just meeting yourself with compassion, as I said, understanding instead of being like, "Oh, why do I have all these emotions coming up and, what's wrong with me?" Thinking, "Oh, what's wrong with me?" Internalizing that kind of dialogue, just understanding, "Oh, this is very natural. You've been through some shit. You're gonna feel that." And there's layers of that sort of shedding off of you. And just knowing that and being okay with it and just riding it out, you know?
Yeah, because every time you resist those, because you got to realize your thoughts are not only running your state of mind in context to what you're allowing through the gate, but the emotional charge, to the polarity aspect needs to be balanced. And so when we're dealing with emotional charge, this is where your magic either gets stagnant, you resist, it gets stuck. See? And then what happens is coming up through your nervous system. It's your nervous system that you're dealing with here. It's your tree. So when you allow things to get stuck and stagnant, it's lodging in your nervous system.
Yep.
And that's what people don't understand in context to the alchemical process and your actual tree, which is how you're experiencing this realm in context to the five senses. You have to realize that this is where you have to be able to move energy. And that is the alchemical charge in context to moving that energy up and down your spine and allowing your nervous system to get lit up. See, because then you're moving things out in context to the emotional charges. And that is how you work with energy, and I think that a lot of people get stuck, like you were saying, because they don't know how to observe what's coming up. You know what I'm saying? They let it take them or it's hooked in.
Mhm.
They don't know how to actually pull back and observe it. I can tell you one thing that's been hitting me is like, what's the point of all this? Why are you even doing this? You're not making an impact on anybody. You're just out there doing what you want to do. You're just an ego freak. I mean, all these things coming up in my mind, my waking consciousness, but I know that's not me. It's not my shit. You see what I'm saying? That is not who I am. So that's a recognition of being able to realize what's actually coming up that's yours, that's coming up from the blood, from the soul code and blood codes, and what's actually running in the ethers, or that you may even being hit with, in context to that on an attack level. So you've got to be able to discern where things are keyed into. And that takes time and awareness to create that awareness. It takes time for that.
Yeah, yeah. And also, just real quick before we get into the astrological breakdown, another thing that I've observed about courage and empowerment in the moment is it's a fucking choice that has to
Yeah.
continue to be made. There's levels of consciousness and awareness and integration. So if you're super integrated, then yeah, it can be automatic, but it takes so much work to get to that point. And very often, and this has just come from being self-aware, being self-observant, and seeing what's coming up, and then how is my thought process reflecting off of these scenarios, and am I reacting or am I responding? And it's like I'll feel myself start to get sort of sucked into that vortex, that swirling whirlpool of fear and negativity and like stress and all those things that are just like washing over you. And then there's that moment of lucidity where I just kind of think like, wait, stop. Remember who the fuck you are.
Yeah.
And like it doesn't mean don't feel those things. It's like, okay, recognize you're getting caught up, you're getting carried away in that current, and you have to stop and ground yourself right then and there and just be like, no, I am more powerful than this. Everything's going to be okay because it always has been on a long enough timeline. Things settle the way they need to settle, and I have yet to be destroyed by anything I've ever been through. Just that sort of mindset shift. And like, yeah, you're still going to feel stress or anxiety or fear, but it just doesn't have the same hold on you. And you're just grounded, and you can navigate and respond to that more from that place of awareness and empowerment and courage of just like, no, I've got this. I'm going to make the best of it, move through, and end up, better, alchemize.
Yeah. Challenging your fifth house is really, really imperative. Your fifth house is Leo, right? It's the sun. So it's challenging your soul. And anytime that stuff comes up to the lack of validation, self-worth, self-love, I'm just a, whatever, a worm or whatever, all that bullshit, right? It's challenging your fifth house because that's where you find your strength and your courage and that kingship, the lion, fucking Leo, right? That's that fifth house. And that's where all your love and creativity and passion, soul spark is, your fun, what lights your soul up, what your passion is to your soul, your purpose of incarnation, all that's sitting in the fifth house. See?
Yeah, I just want to add just right quick. It's funny you're saying because you're bringing up that Leo aspect, and it made me think of the Lion King. That's
Yes.
what Mufasa says to him from the heavens. He's like, Simba, remember who you are.
Right.
Leo aspect of like,
Right.
dude, you're a fucking king.
Yeah,
Act
that's
like
right.
it.
Yep, exactly.
That's great.
And that's how you transmute energy. Fifth house is a transmuting aspect as well. People don't look at it as a transmutation, more the eighth house of Scorpio, right? Because we're dealing with the underworld. But the fifth house is very important to be able to use as an alchemical transmutation point because it does derive the strength of the lion. See? And that's what we all need. We need that strength, that confidence, that self-validation. Know who the fuck you are and drive that narrative. See?
Hell yeah.
And so that's a lot of how we have to approach things with the shadow work. And that's why when you're babbling on about how tired you are and exhausted you are, and I just need a break and all that type of stuff, that's driving the opposition, to that fifth house, because you're not speaking the confidence and strength of your kingship, of your queenship in context to that. See?
Mm,
Yeah.
good stuff.
Those are great points, man. Great points.
Absolutely. So, do we want to start with the Venus Neptune?
Yeah. That just happened a few days ago. We just had that conjunction in Aries with Venus and Neptune. and it was sextiling over to the Aquarian energy in Pluto. So we had kind of an accelerant with that. We're looking at, air, the air element, fixed air element with Pluto and Aquarius sextiling over to Aries conjunction with Neptune, Venus conjunction in Aries, which is bringing the fire element into the arena. So we're running the 12th house, we're running the second house and the 7th house with that energy, all running to self. In context to the Aries energy, that's driving the narrative to what? Cardinal fire. So when we're looking at on the wheel, when we're looking at spring, it's the fire element that drives the narrative to wake everything up. The trees wake up. We've been in the winter of the water element. Everything's been cold. It's been dark. And now we've got spring coming in. Aries is coming in to fire up the alchemical process to the aspect of that what? Octave to Pluto, which is setting in the Aquarian energy. So we have an accelerant with the sextile that's taking place with the Venus and Neptune, which is bringing us a kind of a brand new cycle now that we're stepping into with Venus and Neptune at the beginning of the wheel again. So we have been in these karmic cycles with the retrograde with Venus from Aries, retrograding back to the North Node, retrograding back to when it was, conjunct Neptune and Pisces, retrograding back to all the way back to Saturn conjunct, which was karmic relationships in context of things needing to get resolved. Clearing out the karmic relationships that no longer are going to serve you, or things are going to keep flying the fuck out in context to triggers. And we've all been seeing this in context to that. And so if you've been feeling like, there's relationships that, that have been triggering the hell out of you because of the transits that are taking place, this is the reason why. So now what's happened is that kind of Venus has moved back into Aries. It's still a little in its shadow period still before it actually goes, we get back into, where the patterning is, it's moving, past its retrograde point. But still, this is an ignition point for brand new relationships, a brand new sense of self-worth, self-validation, idealism, creativity, and realizing that the illusions that have been set forth in context to relationships and what we thought relationships should look like is being challenged as well.
Mm-hmm.
And men especially have been challenged, I believe, and I have, personally experienced this, and I know you have too, Logan, by the feminine aspect in context to the wound of betrayal. It has been coming up for review, because of the transits and the energies that are tapping down into the subrealms of the 12th house.
Yeah, it's pretty wild how much that tracks, not just in one, but multiple scenarios that have played out in the past, let's say, month or so.
Yeah.
It's undeniable, just the disproportionate amount of that particular type of turmoil that's been going on.
Yeah, and when it affects you directly, like on a direct cause point, you start to realize that the energy tries to flip on you and make you think that you're the one that's fucked up. See? So it tries to flip its energy onto you in a projection, so that it makes you look like, oh man, they're right, I'm wrong. I need to break my frame as a man to the aspect of what's actually been on the loops for a very long time in context to the wound of betrayal, which is what we're dealing with Chiron and Aries. See, it is the self actualization to the actual self of the collective mind that's being challenged with the wound of betrayal in Aries. And what happens, there's all these overlays and frequency fences and all this bullshit that's been glazed over the top of that wound so it could be protected. See? And now what's happening is these transits are actually burning through those layers to expose the wound so it could actually be healed. You can't heal something if you don't know you have it. or you don't have the awareness that is taking place, or that is deep embedded in your soul and blood code genetics. You can't heal it if it's overlaid because you can't see it. You don't have the awareness to see it with your eye. And so that's what's happening right now with these brand new transits that's taking place. Conjunction Aries with Neptune and Venus. You know, this is a very powerful conjunction. Yes, it's going to be very creative. Yes, it's going to run to a brand new cycle. Yes, will people actually find love within themselves and then be able to take that love and then find somebody to actually work together on the feminine or masculine aspect to take the alchemical process to the next level? Well, I hope so. But look, you got to be okay with being single. If you're single, you got to be okay with you. There's no, the codependency bullshit's got to go. We can't allow that to continue on the loops and cycles. And then what does that end up being? It just ends up being a whole cosmic clusterfuck.
Yeah.
See? And that's what we're dealing with right now with this transit.
Hey guys, just wanted to take a quick moment to offer you a special gift. It's the initiation package. I created this to equip you with all the essential tools you need for your daily metaphysical practice, for anyone serious about their spiritual development. This is a free download that includes the Toolbox mini course. It's comprised of 3 parts: the circle, the breath, and the voice. You'll learn how to cast the circle of the Magi, various breathwork techniques, including a powerful guided breath meditation and 2 magical invocations. You'll also get access to the Inner Sanctum, our private community, where you can connect with other like-minded truth seekers, the Wizard Factory weekly newsletter, as well as some custom Wizard Factory wallpapers for desktop and mobile, all for free. This is my way of helping you lay a solid foundation, so don't miss out. Get access now and take the first step on your path. You can find the link to get yours in the description below. So check it out and let's get back to the content. Everything is a relationship. I mean, we have these ideas of what a relationship is, but everything, that's all our human experience is relationship.
Absolutely.
Relationship with the earth, with other people, with your phone, with your thoughts, with food, like it's everything. And incidentally, you could think of it as like when one relationship ends, another begins. Because say like you break up with someone, now your relationship with yourself just changed to single.
Right.
Everything, that's nature, it's the Ouroboros. At the end is the beginning. Everything, it's all cyclical. Everything is balancing and just shifting, right? So that's an important frame, I think, to always be looking at your relationships as what they are. You have a relationship with somebody you've never met. What is that relationship? It's that you've never met them. And then when you meet them, now you're an acquaintance. And then you could be a friend or a best friend or a lover or a worst enemy, Everything is shifting in those extremes, somewhere in the middle of the
Right, exactly. And the key is to draw, in context of vibrational correspondence, your mindset, law of vibration, law of correspondence, to draw into your circle and vice versa, to have these healthy relationships and to purge the toxic aspects, see? And then build that into a Aquarian aspect, which is your higher self, in context to transformative aspects, which is where Pluto is setting. That's why it's setting there, into a beautiful inner circle that's actually going to get something done in context to the Aquarian energy.
and respect you.
Does that make sense?
In your space. Yeah.
Right. Right. And so that's what that's that sextile that's running from Pluto and Aquarius at 3 degrees to the Neptune energy with that conjunction with Venus. It's trying to show us that, the toxic aspects, the karmic aspects of Venus conjunct Saturn we're signaling what is getting ready to fly the fuck out. So these relationships that we're in that are causing problems for us, that are causing us to stay on the patterning loops and keeping us locked down in context to moving forward and higher, on the alchemical mountain, have to be released, because otherwise they're just going to continue on the cycles. It's like, well, you made me mad, so I unfriended you, or you did this or you did that, so I bitch slapped you, or whatever. And what happens is you don't actually communicate the real deal of what's actually going on to get to the roots of the problem. See, it's all just super overlaid bullshit. And
Right.
so that's what keeps it on the loops in context of parasitical consciousness. So the parasite continues to get fed on the loops, because men got to stand up and say, you know what? I've already stepping into this relationship. We'll deal with it if it gets toxic. And that means that sometimes we have to already make that assumption that we're not willing to break our frame as men to any aspect of toxic feminism and the feminine aspect, and vice versa for the feminine to the men. There has to be a boundary set there in context to that, right? And this is that same thing, conjunction with Venus and Neptune and Aries. Aries wants to dissolve the boundaries of Venus there, but what's happening is the fire elements coming in and saying, no, wait a second. This has got to be something that demands a new cycle is about to appear within the human race. Neptune's resetting on the wheel for another 146-year transit, baby. Come on. This is big shit, So this is where we're at with those particular cycles. And so as men, we have to be willing to walk away when things cannot be resolved and they continue to be toxic. When we start to see ourselves being pulled on the wheel, same thing with the women. They got to be able to walk away and just, shake the dust off their feet and walk away from it, man. It is what it is. So this is the challenge for us right now as men and women. And it's a big challenge because this is what's being exposed.
Yeah.
Big time.
Very, 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 very long time.
Oh yeah, man. It's been going on for aeons, man.
It's heating up. I'm seeing a lot of different dialectics really igniting. There's been the race thing's been a big one. There's all that. There's multiple things going on with that. Obviously, a lot of Israel, Jewish type stuff as well.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, it's really something.
Pakistan, India is at war with each other. We're starting to see, the brothers are at war with each other. You're starting to see a lot of really old shit coming back up again on the wheel, that's been going on for aeons, coming back up on the loop in context to review, and people get thrown right back into the fucking spinner rack, man. Right back down into the shit. And they don't even realize that it's actually happening because they're so familiar with it. It's just another comfort zone for them. Instead of actually stepping up to the plate, finding your fifth house confidence and saying, no, you got to stand in front of the Balrog with the wand of fire and say, you will not fucking pass. You got to have that tenacity with this path work. You've got to have that type of energy with this thing. Otherwise, it will just take you, man. It'll just take you and rake you the fuck out again and again and again until you as an individual stand the fuck up and say, you're not going to pass. Fuck you. See? And that's the attitude that we've got to have as a fucking dragon, man. You got to have that attitude when you're dealing with this type of, reality that's going on with you. And sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it's painful. Sometimes it really feels like a sword's going through your heart. You feel that pain. It actually really feel it.
Yep.
I get it, man. But you know what? That's when you embrace the pain and you find your strength and confidence and you transmute that shit into your self-empowerment, man.
That's a perfect example. You're feeling the pain. You're feeling the anxiety. Remember, just like I was saying, stop right there in your tracks and remember, embrace that. Move into it, right? Empowerment.
Yes, absolutely, man. Encourage yourself.
The fear is the unconscious part.
It
If
is.
you're not in awareness, it is going to just consume you because you're not in your power, you're not in, like, in your humanness is not online. You're an animalistic mindset. So it's allowed
Right.
to in that moment, you stop and you remember, "I'm a human being. I'm a divine, powerful creator." Boom. It all lights up.
Right.
Pull yourself up out of that mire of ignorance and, just unconscious being at the, the ebbs or like at the mercy of the influences, being at the effects realm instead of stepping into causality.
Right, and that's we're in Ragnarok. That's what people don't get. It's Ragnarok that we're dealing with in context, and it's Fenrir that we're actually dealing with, who wants to swallow your fucking sun. See? He wants to swallow your passion. That's what fear does. It swallows your soul spark. And
Yeah.
that's what you got to understand, that fear isn't just an emotion, it's a force that you're dealing with there. That's why you got to be able to transmute that fear. You're going to feel it. There's nothing wrong with feeling the fear. It's
Right,
okay. But what are you going to do with that shit?
right.
That's where you got to find your fifth house, your fucking Leo. You find your sun, your soul spark, your passion. And that's when you drive the narrative to the transmutation process and turn into courage.
Mhm, mhm. Yep. Because it's yeah, the mental chatter as we're
Because it's the
talking about.
fear of the gods that fed Fenrir. That's
Right.
why he got so huge.
Right. Yeah. Fear of Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I was saying, it's speaking of the mental chatter that we mentioned earlier, that's what you're gonna get caught up in. If you're in that unconscious being at the mercy of, you're like, "Oh my god, what if this happens? What about that? Oh, that's so terrible, blah, blah, blah." You've gotta stop that in its tracks and shift your mindset into, "Yes, but it doesn't matter. I've
That's
got
Mercury.
I've
That's
gotta I've
Mercury.
gotta overcome."
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're in control, and that's the first step because what you're catching yourself in that pattern of you losing control. You're getting just thrashed around by that. You're at the mercy of that. And so like you're not in that mindset of self-ownership and I've got this. I'm in control. So that's the part you need to remember is like, wait, I'm I have the wand here. I'm the fucking magi.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to remember, and that's why you got to be able to isolate yourself at certain points and clear things out because things will hook into you. We're not perfect, man. We're going to get hooked into, and it's okay. But you got to learn how to unhook and seal off. And that's what the circle of the magi is all about, is learning how to unhook shit and then seal off the auric field in context to the ethers themselves.
Mhm.
That's why knowing,
Leaks.
right, that's why understanding where the transits are and what energies are actually running through the ethers to the circle of the magi is what you've got to be able to understand when you're working with that circle.
Right.
And you see, and that's the whole point of it. See, and that's what planetary high magic's all about. And, when we're dealing with the Mercury energy, that's that Gemini aspect, right? That's always got the monkey brain going on. Geminis, they always start everything and never finish nothing because they're always going from one project to another, one thing to the next, and they can't seem to actually construct anything to the 11th house, which is the air magician, to get through there because they can't access their 7th house. See, in context to the air element. So there's always this back and forth bipolar shit. Why do you think we deal with so much bipolar shit in this world, man? It's that Gemini energy that's got to be brought into balance to the 7th gate. And we're getting ready to have a transit with Mercury moving into its home there at Gemini,
Mm.
you know?
Yep.
So we have a lot of work to do in context to the ignition point of thought. Are your thoughts betraying you? That's the question you have to ask yourself.
So self-awareness and isolating or just going within, things like meditation, these are all very, very good to balance that energy, to ground it, to offset the neurosis that can be.
Yeah, because once you get taken by what's running, the bullshit that's actually running through the ethers in context to what's on the playing field, and what's being thrown out to psychological operations, it's going to take you, and if you don't have enough awareness, you may not make it back. This is what you've got to realize, guys. This is not a game. It's not just like a game. Oh, we're playing checkers, man. This is real life. This is real soul progression work on an eternal level. And when you realize that, you start to go within. You have to create protocols to pull back, to meditation, to working within the circle of the mage, being able to lay in the darkness, take a life review, look at yourself, look at the mirror within yourself, and say, wait a second here, where am I at? I feel out of control. I don't feel like I'm owning anything right now.
The runes is also a great tool for that situation.
Toning the runes is fantastic.
Yeah, because that's what's so great about them is their utility. Are multifaceted. You can use them for your own clarity and navigation, but also to actively work with, shift, and transmute your own energies and external energies as well. So powerful.
Right. And if you want to work with Gemini in context of the runes, go to Ewas. That's going to be the rune of the horse and the rider, which is trusting yourself, being able to have the steady progress of leveling up your consciousness, trusting who you are, trusting your own heart, your own path, your own intuition.
An instinctual intelligence.
Yes.
Because when a horse and rider are operating, it's not very conscious
Subrealm.
It's very visceral, somatic, and psychic, almost like telekinetic.
Absolutely.
Communication between you and the horse.
Absolutely. Well, that's the correspondence to Ewas. And the reason why that is because Gemini demands to find balance, and you've got to have balance when you're on a horse. And so this is why it's Gemini, because it's trying to drive you into alignment to your Mars energy. And if you want to take it to Tyr or Tiwaz, then that's going to bring that alignment then, to that balance and to that temperance of the seventh gate. So there's a lot there, man, in context to when you're looking at esoteric aspects to runes and then the correspondence to astropsychology. Woo, that's a hell of a study.
That's something I'd like to get more into with you on future segments, as a matter of fact. Really killer. We could do a lot on that.
Have you ever felt curious about the runes, but didn't know where to begin? The runes are a powerful tool for transformation, but without the right guidance, they can feel confusing, overwhelming, or even inaccessible. Maybe you've struggled with conflicting information, not knowing which sources to trust. Or maybe you just need a clear, practical way to start using them in your life. Rune Magic Essentials is a free mini course designed to give you a solid foundation in rune work without the fluff or confusion. You don't need months of study to start using the runes. In just 15 minutes, I'll show you how to tap into their power. Inside, you'll learn Introduction to the Elder Futhark and its ancient origins, how to use Rune Galder, the ancient practice of rune chanting. Discover the first 3 runes, Fehu, Uruz, and Durzaz, to start transforming your reality. This is your gateway into the world of rune magic, and it's completely free. Just hit the link in the description, sign up, and begin your journey today. Unlock the wisdom of the runes. Download Rune Magic Essentials now. And now let's get back to the content.
I'd like to keep kind of moving on the agenda as far as the weather report. So what's next on the list for us?
Okay, so we've got
Scorpio.
Full moon of Scorpio on the 12th. So this is when we're talking about moon, we're talking about thought and emotion and mind, right? When we're talking Scorpio, we're talking underworld shit, man. Things that are
Subconscious, the shadow.
yeah. And your eighth house is all about being able to access things that are hidden. It's it is the occult aspect that we're looking at there.
Absolutely.
And so what is still occulted? And so when we get a Scorpio full moon, that's an illumination of the mind in context of the sun shining fully upon the moon itself. It is a direct opposition to the sun. So we have a Taurus sun, we have a full moon in Scorpio. That's the 2-8 axis in context to that. So if you think about, Taurus being the material physical aspect, Scorpio would be the etheric spiritual aspect of what's still hidden and needs to be kind of apocalypto or revealed to you. So it's a good time to take a review and just connect with the higher force and allow what needs to come up during that period of time, during that full moon. You got a window of 2 days before, 2 days after the full moon itself. So like a 5-day window there to be able to really look at those type of aspects when we're looking at a Scorpio full moon. I always hail the Scorpio full moon, man, because I have Taurus in the 8th house. I have Sun in the 8th house in Taurus, and I've got Jupiter in the 8th house in Taurus. And so I always hail this particular energy very strongly.
Highlight a lot of aspects of your.
Yeah, because it really runs my templating.
Yeah.
So it's a very powerful time for me to actually review some sub things that are still going on that I need to deal with that I haven't really looked at in context to what's still in my underworld that's been locked down.
Yeah. It's a time for shadow work, essentially.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. I would look at that. Just going within, really looking at those aspects that you've been avoiding, burying deep down, that kind of thing. And definitely a good time for ritual, because for me, ritual is one of the best ways to really like stir from the depths of the emotional waters and bring up all that sludge and bring it to the surface so you can deal with it, because it's so intentional. You're really putting your intention, your mental energy towards that. And there, if you do it right and do it very intentionally, that's one of the most potent ways for me to.
Yeah, your consciousness could definitely, focus on a cause point or a certain point with a ritual, whatever your ritual is, whatever you want to do. And it definitely is able then to focus your consciousness away from all of the daily bullshit that you deal with and, just get by yourself and do a ritual with yourself, And it definitely, like you said, it can definitely, help you clear out certain aspects that are still there that, are still lodged, down deep in your unconscious, subconscious mind.
Yeah, I would say you could, put some stones or crystals outside. So the days leading up when that moon is charging up,
Yes.
charge some crystals, maybe some herbs or an offering or something like that. Have that all ready to go on the day of. You're using all of those items in your ritual that's already charged with that Scorpio moon energy. That's powerful right there.
Exactly, because you're really dealing with your own trickster energy at that point. The things that you are still unauthentic within your mind that you maybe not even aware of that you do. And so those are the things that need to be illuminated in context to the full moon shining fully upon the mind and thought and emotion. And this is where, you can look at the patterning or certain things that you did and take a little bit of a review too with the ritual itself, and then being able to actually make a recalibration and adjustment. And that's going to create the awareness, Logan, that we're all looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
To make the transformative aspects that we need to make to heal.
That's right. It's an ongoing process.
It really is. Healing is really the, it's the main component of what we're trying to do here.
Mm-hmm.
Heal thyself.
It's like a catalyst.
That's why you think they threw out the whole Christian concept in context to the healing. See, because it got psyoped in context to a reversal. So the healing isn't you. You're not doing the healing. Someone else is doing the healing for you. Yeah. See,
It's made me whole again.
yeah, right. So I'm whole, I'm healed, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, I'm blessed coming in, I'm blessed going out. All that bullshit Christian garb that I used to speak and say, hey brother, how you doing? I'm blessed coming in, I'm blessed going out. Ho, ho, ho. That shit, right? It's so inauthentic and full of bullshit.
Yeah.
No, man, you're fucking hurting inside. You got shit coming up and you're dealing with, you're suicidal, motherfucker. But you're trying to cover it up with this facade mask. See? Yeah. And that's where, this work is the real deal, because you're doing it. You're the one forging the process. Because why? Because you love yourself enough on an eternal level and a soul level, soul to spirit, connection, that nothing's going to stop you from healing. You're going to finish the process. That's what love's all really about, man.
Well said, man.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got Sun conjunct in Uranus and Taurus.
Yeah, shaking it up, baby.
Tell us about that, man.
We could see some financial shakeups. Excuse me, for sure, with that particular conjunction, because when we're looking at what Sun represents, it's your soul, it's your kingdom, right? So on a collective level, if we're looking at what money represents, and where the flow of money is actually happening, we could actually see some rocky things happen during this period of time. We've kind of already seen that a little bit. But when we're looking at an individual level, it's time to be able to get out of patterns that you've been stuck in. Uranus is like an initiator, igniter. It's like Tower card, man. It can come in and just lightning strike you out of nowhere, unpredictable shit, hit you, so that you actually get a consciousness release. That you have the input and output of consciousness, right? So what's being inputted, what's coming out, it can just like hit that. And all of a sudden, all your whole electrical system is going to get reset in context to what patterns or what things you've been doing over and over and over. It could be anything that could happen to you. It's a good time to watch out, for, be aware of, certain accidents and this type of thing. It's very unpredictable things. The things that you wouldn't even think could happen can happen. So just be aware of, the May 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, right around that time frame where, things could definitely get acted up. They could definitely start to, become unpredictable on your own, in your own life. And definitely on a collective level, it's going to happen. So we're kind of already have seen this with Sun moving into Taurus, into the gate where Uranus is setting, with a lot of the power outages that have been going on as well. So we have to kind of look at what Uranus is. The power is electricity. It's devices and gadgets and electricity and lightning. It's all of these things, right? It's also sovereignty and free will and independence,
Uranus is?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's being able to realize that you are a sovereign being. And the other thing that Uranus runs is it runs the ancient aspects back to the old world of, Atlantis, Lemuria. It's running those memories, those grid works of consciousness as well. So when we're looking at Uranus in general, we have to realize that Uranus and Venus are the only two planets in the solar system that run in the opposite and spinning. Because everything else spins, in a kind of a clockwise. Uranus and Venus spins the opposite, counterclockwise. So they're kind of oddities in context to energies that are running kind of the opposition to the rest of the solar spiral. Isn't that interesting? And so when you start to look at how unpredictable Uranus can be, this is one of the reasons, because that energy is running against the rest of the solar system in context, creating a kind of like what do they call that? Friction, kind of creating friction with everything else.
Yeah.
That's why it's an igniter and an awakener, because of that. That's one of the reasons.
That's a lightning spark.
Yes, it's kind of initiated with a Tower card. It'll help you to kind of lightning strike your consciousness in a certain area where you need to wake up. You need to see something, and if you just keep ignoring what it's hitting, it's going to continue to hit it until you get it. So, depending on where Uranus is placed on your natal chart and what transits you're having with it, it could be a very powerful activator.
Yeah.
So the shakeup's going to happen mid-May here coming up. So just be prepared for that. Look, man, we're not getting out of this boiling water, man. We're not. It's going to continue to get hotter. It's going to continue to boil, man. And on our next segment, we'll talk about that in context to Uranus moving into Gemini. So and how all the outer planets are going to be running to basically air and fire. So and we can get into that on our next segment, but
for June.
Yeah, June segment. But man, what's coming this year? It's going to really start to boil up, man, because we got Jupiter moving into Cancer as well, which is a water element. So we're going to have, boiling water, man. Whew.
Damn.
Yeah. Just coming up on the next segment, just getting you guys ready for it.
Yep. Stay tuned.
Yeah, man. So that's kind of what's happening in on 17th. And then we're going to finish off with some big movers. Gemini. We've got basically Sun will move into Gemini on the 20th. And then right after that, Saturn moves into Aries. And this is a big move. This is big news, because Saturn has finished up its cycle of, running through the 12 houses. And now it's cranking up a brand new karmic cycle, man, in context to cardinal fire. So Saturn's being recharged, baby, to run another 30-year cycle through the wheel. And this is another thing we can get into down the road with this conjunction with a retrograde Neptune at 0 degrees Aries with Saturn. But right now, Saturn's going to be moving into, on the 24th, moving into Aries.
Okay. Because Aries is the first sign, right?
Yeah, it's sign of the self. Yeah,
it's starting a whole new cycle. Okay, that makes sense now. That's very
right, because Saturn's starting a brand new cycle on the wheel. It's come out of the underworld, so to speak, and now it's coming back into the daylight, into the spring. And now we're getting ready to see a brand new fire with Saturn to begin to forge a whole brand new cycle, karmic cycle of burn off with us. And, this is kind of where, basically what's going to happen is we're going to have an opportunity to forge a brand new legacy now with Saturn coming into Aries. So things might get shifted somewhat in context to our plans and what we had planned, where we were trying to go with things. Saturn may shift that because of legacy itself in context to your MC line that's setting at the top of your chart to what legacy you're actually trying to forge. So this is going to bring a lot of shifting, with this particular transit. It's a big transit, man. We don't get these very often. Every 30 years or so, we get this. So we're having transits that, right now that aren't ever going to happen again in our lifetimes, man.
But a few recently that are like that.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's going to take time to integrate Pluto and Aquarius. It's not going to happen in a few months. That's an integration. That's a 20-year transit. It's an integration that's going to take a few years for us to actually really integrate Pluto and Aquarius in context to our templating and what it actually is trying to, bring forth out of us. Same thing with Neptune and Aries. We've not had this energy before. None of us have experienced this. It's brand new, like Pluto and Aquarius. We've never experienced this energy like this, So we've got a brand new cycle here coming with Neptune that we have to integrate. These integrations aren't going to be a couple weeks or a couple months. We're talking a few years to be able to actually really integrate these energies, because these are long transits. 20-year transit, 12-year transits, 7-year transit with Uranus. It's another energy that we've never experienced, coming in with, Uranus coming into Gemini in July. Another integration point. There's a lot of integration that's going to take place the next year or two in context to the outer planets.
Word.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how it is. I mean, you're talking about big.
Dude, it's not a sprint. It's a marathon.
Yeah. This stuff doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
It takes a long time. And just looking at the bigger cycles, nature, everything moving in cycles.
Right.
Some are very quick and some are very slow. And modern Western mindset, we want that quick, right? Everything, we want it now. And just understanding that's not how it works.
That's one of the reasons why they threw the whole microwave generation out, man. Because what does it do? It creates the mindset of, I want it my way in 5 minutes. I don't want to have to work for anything. And the entitlement aspect in context to the collective mindset has gotten out of control. I see it in my business. I see it with help all the time. They're lazy. They don't want to actually do anything. You got to push them to do anything. They feel like they're entitled because they just showed up, and they do the bare minimum just to get by. I see this all the time. Yeah. And this is the collective mindset that they forged upon, at least in this country. I'm sure it's worldwide, but in this country, it's gotten bad. And it's like, you start to look at it and you start to go, what the fuck, man? The integration aspect to actual alchemical processes takes years. It's not a one trick pony here, man. It's multidimensional, and it takes years to integrate this pathwork and create awareness. It doesn't happen in a few months, guys. So be patient with yourself and realize when you start this shit, you're starting to see it all the way through. You're not going to quit halfway because it's too hard. It's too this, it's too that. I can't do it. You get caught in that bullshit. You gotta see it all the way through. And that's why Logan and I do these podcasts. One of the reasons is to encourage people to keep the fuck going. Don't stop. You're your worst enemy. The enemy of yourself, the enemy within.
Yeah, I was thinking about that today, how most people do far more to victimize and enslave themselves than anybody else or
so true.
Anything else.
So fucking true, man.
Yeah. But everybody wants to point the finger and say, that's the enemy, that's the ruler, that's the oppressor, and I'm the victim.
Right.
Statistically, usually not true.
Right. Yeah. You're the victim because you haven't looked in the mirror. That's the reason why you're the victim, because you actually haven't owned your shit. And we're all still owning it, but you got to put yourself in the hot seat in context and own what is yours. Some shit's not yours, and it's okay. You don't have to own that because it's not yours. But what is yours, you need to own. Set yourself in the hot seat and own that shit, and then start being a transmutation machine. Get your ass in gear and get it going, because that's the only way you're going to get out of this shit.
Right.
You're not getting out otherwise.
It's on you.
Yeah. Everybody's coming the same way, dude. There's no get out of jail free card here. Say the magic words, just Jesus is your savior, and you're in, baby. You're saved. going to heaven. Jesus taking all your sins away, all your bad shit, all your evil stuff's going away. You don't got to do anything, man. Just confess the Savior to glory. What a bunch of hogwash that shit is, see? But yet that is the escapism of religion.
Yeah.
That, in context of the Abrahamic constructs, that's been given and the rotten fruit to swallow to mankind. It's the tree of stagnation and death.
The sour grapes.
Yep. Totally is, man. And this is, this is the whole idea of, no one's coming to save your ass. You get out with your dragon in fucking harmony with your fucking Ankh. And that's how you get out of this shit, man. You got to find that fucking Ankh inside of you. That fucking power manifestation in context to the dragon energy, and create the fucking phoenix from the ashes that the dragon just burnt the fuck down. That's how you get out of this shit. And you transcend beyond all this bullshit that's going on here on this planet. And this is why we work with transits. It's why we work with, energies of planetary high magic to help us into the alchemical transmutation process so that we can literally get the hell out of this. You can live out of the matrix. You don't have to live within it.
Mm-hmm.
You can be in it, but not live in it. Not your mind is not stuck in it.
That's right.
And that's the freedom of your mind. And that's a lot of that, what that Uranus conjunction in Taurus is all about. It's about owning your self-worth, owning your self-love, owning your self-validation in context to your high mental capacity, to the Uranian construct in context to your higher self. And this is a lot of what that is all about. And Saturn moving into Aries is creating a whole brand new legacy for you and for me in context of what we're going to forge. So be ready to shift up your plans when new information comes in on you. Don't just ignore it and reject it, but take a look at the new information and see how it's going to benefit your plans. Because it's going to come. So I think that's pretty much where we're at right now, man, as far as May goes.
Did we? Yeah, that's right. We covered Saturn and
we got Mercury moving into Gemini. We kind of covered that already. But again, this is a lot of being able to own your thought process with Mercury moving into Gemini. That's its home. And, we got to realize that, you can't get scatterbrained, man. You got to shut that down, man. Like I said, Geminis are notorious for being bipolar. Did you know that like 70% of the serial killers are Geminis?
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
It's quite a statistic.
Yeah, it's wild, man.
So yeah, that's great. How would you sort of tie all this together as just kind of like a final summary and conclusion?
Boy, we covered a lot there. Well, I think the biggest aspect here, I think that we really talked about, that I think that, if I could leave you with anything, it would be this. During this next, few weeks, when we're dealing with all these transits, really stop a minute or, take some time for yourself. And, I would say really try during the Scorpio full moon to take some time for yourself, get by yourself, and start to really take a reevaluation of your direction, what direction you're actually going, and look at it in a really, not in a judgmental way, like, trying to get down on yourself, but in a just an observing what direction you're actually going with your energies. And where's your consciousness being placed most of the time? Just take a look at it. Like, how much time are you actually spending on your phone? How much time are you actually spending on social media? How much time are you actually spending by yourself, actually self-nurturing, validating, taking care of you? Are things pulling on you in your life that are toxic. Where are toxic things coming up in your life? Just take a real evaluation of where you're at. And I would say during that Scorpio full moon, that is a great time to do that, because it's going to give you a kind of a portal opening up in context to that energy of Scorpio, to be able to look at and evaluate some of the things that maybe you need to purge in your life, get rid of, take care of, and then be able to make the recalibration and transmutation process. And you can use that really powerful Sun conjunct Uranus energy to bring forth the change that you need to have happen to your soul. That's what that's there for. So that Scorpio full moon on the 12th is going to precede the Sun Uranus conjunction in Taurus. So let's
Dates for that again?
May 12th on the Scorpio full moon, and May 17th on the conjunction with Sun and Uranus in Taurus.
Gotcha.
So that 5-day period would be a great time to do that self-reflection.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that's great. I don't think I have anything to add to it. So
Yeah, just, and I think, I'll be able to take some time for myself as well with that, because my life's getting ready to shift again, and it's a good thing. It's what, sometimes it's what you have to reevaluate things, and then allow things to, to come into manifestation in context to the shift of where you need to go.
yeah, I got some big changes coming too.
Yeah, exactly. We're both kind of in the same boat. And so don't be, if I've said anything at all, don't be afraid of change.
Yeah.
Change is one of the hardest things to embrace, but don't resist it, because the change is coming for a reason, and just look at it in context to what it is. And then if it's good for you and you feel like it's good for you and you feel like it's going to take you in a better direction, embrace the change and forge the change within your state of mind.
Yep. That's right. Change is constant,
It is, man.
and it's there for you if you decide to embrace it rather than working against it.
Yeah, because we can get stuck.
Then if it's always there, then you always have that choice. Are you going to fight it, or are you going to lean into that? It's like if you're sailing a ship, and you can either fight the wind or you turn on sail and leverage that.
Exactly. Don't let your ego stubbornness stop you from change.
Yeah.
Because of you thought it was one way, and your mindset is, this is how it's going to be. You got to become mutable and find your mutable positions on your natal chart. Work with the mutable energy, because that's going to help you change. Pisces helps, is, flow of water, right? When we're dealing with, mutable water, and, when we're dealing with immutable earth, it's Virgo, and so you can look at these mutable energies and start to work with those to help you change. Look, you've got help on the solar spiral right now. You've got the Scorpio full moon, which is going to kind of a fixed energy and fixed water, but it's going to help you ground to the being able to actually have a review and look at things. And then you've got the Sun conjunct Uranus, which is going to help you bring the change. So look, this is a great setup for us to make these changes this month.
But only if you use it.
You got to be able to work with it, though, man. You got to realize what's happening, what's going on.
Yep. That's one reason why you subscribe and follow these updates, because we try to shed light on these things so that you're aware of the energies that are happening, so therefore you can make the most of those.
Absolutely.
So I hope you all got lots of value out of this. I know I did. This was a really awesome, powerful conversation. And again, feel free to go back and watch the old episodes and reflect on that, because there's still gold there too. If you can remember back what was going on and then hear those echoes in what we were talking about, there's a lot to use there still. And do follow the playlist as well, so that you stay current. You can even save the playlist so that
Yes.
They're all there in one place of all of these updates that we're doing. Rodney, real quick, let people know about your services and how to get a hold of you quickly.
Yeah. Easiest way to get a hold of me. My email's kind of been weird lately. I don't know what's been going on with it. I haven't been getting emails, people saying they're emailing me. It's weird. So I would say the best way to get a hold of me on social media would be my Hardcore Productions page on YouTube, or just my regular Facebook page, Rodney Goodwin. I post a lot of videos on my regular page. And so to get a hold of me, you can just message me there.
Yeah.
That's the best place to get a hold of me, really, if you want to hit me up. I think the link tree is down below.
Yeah.
To my website and kind of all my pages. So
Yeah, all the links are below. Just know that you can get a hold of Rodney if you want to get a personal reading or rune reading.
yeah, basically everything's on my hardcoreproductions.com page, all the services that I offer.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you do want to begin learning the runes for yourself, as I mentioned earlier, this is such a great time to have that tool that you have, access to directly at any time, and you want to start learning that. To check out the free Rune Magic Essentials. That link is down below as well. Teaches you the first 3 runes and how to invoke those using the voice or enchanting. And I've got a lot of great feedback on that so far.
Fantastic.
I think that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please just, drop down, hit that like button. Really helps the channel, helps the video, and subscribe so that you stay connected. Turn on those notifications. You get all the new videos as they drop. I know I've been a little slow lately, but I'm working on things in the background. I've been, kind of recording some stuff here at the house, so I've got some good stuff coming your way here soon. So
Absolutely, man.
thanks for being a part of this, everyone. Much love to you all, and we'll see you next time. Be empowered, inspired, and encouraged.